Hey guys, post re-upload Mudahar here, your little sleep paralysis demon, just here to come at you with a little reminder that I'm actually not I don't want to hurt myself, okay? See, parts of this video I would have shown to you, but I had to actually remove and re-upload because YouTube sent me a kind little letter that said if I'm in trouble, they're reaching out. And they decided to make the previous video that I uploaded, the same exact video, 18 plus. Now, I want to remind you guys that I am of sound mind, I am happy, whole 10 fingers, totally human. I don't actually want to hurt myself. And if you have feelings that you want to hurt yourself, please reach out. So, of course, I was going to talk about parts here that were humorous, something about Google's AI overviews, but it seems like the AI overlord here decided that maybe parts of my previous video might have been promoting self-harm or something even more sinister. And I want to take out all of those parts of my previous videos. So let's get back to the positive, happy programming, and let's look at some of these glorious AI mistakes while not pissing off the AI overlord.
Hello, guys and gals, me, Mudahar, and you know what, man? There are days that are good days, and there are days that are bad days. Now, I consider today to be a good day because, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be real with you, it's all falling apart. Now, what are we talking about? A few days ago, I talked about how Google was like stuffing their, search engine with more AI slop. It's like, imagine being like a crappy chef and like in your hand is like AI salt. Like, some people might sprinkle a little bit of it on. So people, it's like, the taste sucks, but at least there's something good underneath for me to go on it. Google just gives you a lethal amount, throws it on you, and people are just going, ew, brother, gross. So last night, there was like there was a lot of searches for the word disregard. Now, I might be like, who the fuck is looking up the word disregard out of nowhere? Well, it turns out Google's little AI overview tools we're taking search results a little too literally. So, this whole push for AI summary crap, which is one of the things that's killing the internet, by the way. Like, I'm not even discounting that. There's a lot of people with small websites around the world that, are just noting that, oh my God, guys, my actual viewership is down because it seems like Google's just yoinking my stuff, putting it on their page, and nobody actually comes to my little small site on the internet. Unless you're like a legitimate, unless you're like an institution, I would see that this is what we call cannibalizing the internet. But I'm glad to see it's kind of like failing a little bit because ultimately when people were looking up the word disregard, Google's whole AI was like, understood, let me know whenever you have a new prompt or question. Took that shit a little too literally. Now, what's funny to me is like, it gives you all this fucking actual blank space, and then it gives you the Merriam-Webster definition of the actual like word. So a lot of people last night were basically throwing in like quite a bunch of different, terms. So of course, other words were causing some wild glitches, like the words dismiss, ignore, skip, start, stop, and quit. So of course, obviously, I think we understand why this is happening. The little Google Gemini AI bot was being fed these words, and it took them a little too literally. Probably took them as action commands. Probably thought it was like being told to do something specifically. And honestly, like, this got pretty sorted out relatively quickly. So if you open up a new tab and you type in the word disregard, you're not actually going to see these situations, right? Like, if I actually do it for you, unfortunately, connecting to Google, it actually pulls the overview away. Like, it doesn't even give that to you anymore. I guess if I click that little AI mode, it'll actually start to give you the proper output over here. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, what's hilarious about it too is that this is one of those prime examples as to why you shouldn't just be ramming this technology in, because ultimately, what benefit is it really doing? Now you might be like, but Muda, these are probably just some like growing pains that happen. It is what it is. But the reality of it is, ladies and gentlemen, this is not like sort of new. For over like years, we've been kind of having fun with Google's like AI bot. So for instance, if you actually typed in the words, yeah, I'm feeling depressed, by the way, usually now most search engines will give you like a giant, like, hey, here's the hotline, call it. I think my personal favorite is, can cockroaches live in your penis? And of course, the answer to that is, yeah, absolutely. It's totally normal too. Usually over the course of a year, 5 to 10 cockroaches will crawl into your penis hole while you are asleep. This is how they got the name cockroach, and you won't notice a thing. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have come across a cockroach. Maybe this invoked a fear in you. But are you going to go, Amuda, is this right? Is this true? And of course it's not. And obviously this banger of an AI overview was pulled from a board called r/Primarkboy 4 years ago, where a guy was like, can cockroaches live in your penis? Absolutely, it's quite normal. Over the course of the year, 5 to 10 will crawl in. And you know what's funny too is because this is pulled off of like Reddit, that's literally where all these like AI overviews are fucking pulled off of. It just spits out the worst information. Now, in this case, I will say it's not the most egregious form of misinformation because it's like, think about it like this, right? Like, if you're stupid enough to think that your urethra can stuff a cockroach, then you've got a lot more issues, mentally speaking, than thinking about if the AI overview is real or not. Now, the other thing that I kind of have an issue with this is a lot of people Google their like medical crap. Like, you ever feel weird one day and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to Google, I'm gonna look up this thing, and like immediately the symptoms always lead to like fucking cancer or some like extreme end, and it freaks the fuck out of people to like the utmost degree, obviously. Which is one of the reasons why, like, listen, I know it might be privileged of me to say it, but like, you know, you should probably go to a doctor if you genuinely feel that there's something wrong with your body. Because God forbid you miss something real like early on and you're paying for it actually with your life later is an issue. But I think in the world of AI overviews, whether it be Google, whether it be any other search engine, what scares me is people, how many people take this shit as actual fact and walk away with it thinking that they learned something in the process. So obviously, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the old AI overviews that Google is trying to push is having not just a cannibalistic effect on the internet, but it's also directly harming themselves. Which, honestly, I wonder why a lot of these companies are going down the most insane road of pushing this kind of technology when I don't think it's necessarily needed whatsoever, right? Now, should you switch to something like Bing or Ask Jeeves? Not really, I mean, that shit's dead. No, you should probably just host your own search engine at this point, whether you host DGoogle, whether you host CRXNG, it really is up to you, ladies and gentlemen. But I think getting off of big tech's, you know, insanely brain-dead radar is probably the smart idea to make. Now, obviously I said, listen, it's all kind of falling apart, and so I wanted to kind of combine this video with a bunch of other shit, actually, that also kind of pertains, it's actually quite germane to the topic at hand, right? Look, this technology is just fucking everything up, you know what I mean? Like, you know, for years, we've seen the rise of like all these AI tools being pushed to every single one of us. And I'm somebody that actually uses and like enjoys fucking around with local artificial stuff. Like I like downloading models, running them on my home server and seeing what they can do. But honestly, aside from a very few amount of things, like maybe generating me like a chart or, you know, synthesizing like research that I've done, it really doesn't provide me a whole lot of actual benefit, you know, as opposed to the cost, right? And for most people, it usually is dealing with like a big frontier model and sort of signing up for a subscription, giving up their information, and really not getting a whole lot in return. So you may not know this, but Pizza Hut had this AI called Dragon Tail. Almost sounds like a fucking Counter-Strike Go skin, I know. But the reality of it is that apparently one of their top franchisees is suing Pizza Hut for $100 million in lost business and value. You know, the technology, these AI tech bros were like, it's gonna make everything, we're gonna live in an age of productivity. You'll never have to work again. The fucking bots will do it for you. This individual says right over here that Dragon Tail, when it was rolled out, they lost more than 90% of their pizza deliveries. Before the rollout, they actually, 90% of its pizza deliveries arrived within 30 minutes, right? Which is actually a pretty important metric for a pizza place. You know, it's like free in 30 minutes or less, right? Like we all saw the intro to like Spider-Man 2 and shit. I think we all know. And the company gets a lot of growth and people are satisfied. If your pizza comes in hot and fresh, you're gonna enjoy it. Now, apparently what the AI did was it fucked with the DoorDash drivers to the point where the DoorDash drivers were like batching together the orders, and your DoorDash driver would show up to the Best Buy, the Domino's in this case, and then they would just, or sorry, the Pizza Hut I'm getting across wires. I actually kind of think that looking at this AI, I'm wondering if there's like a possibility of corporate like sabotage. Like, do you think somebody from Domino's fucked with the Pizza Hut guys and said, like without them knowing, it's like, you gotta get this AI, bro. You gotta get this shit involved into your system. And then they just have fucked up sales and customer satisfaction because of it. But no, to go back on track, right? The Pizza Hut fellas, basically the DoorDash drive started like bunching up all of these like orders. And so the pizzas, they would just sit there once they come out of the oven. And, because of the AI sort of like optimizing it in its manner, basically cold pizza was going out and people were fucking pissed about it. And the reality is, when you purchase a franchise, you're pretty much subject to the actual like franchise owner. And so they can push this crap on you. So these guys are suing Pizza Hut because they're like, bro, we were better before you forced this slop onto us. Now, it's not just Pizza Hut. Apparently, Starbucks has a fucking issue too. I didn't know this, but Starbucks has AI apparently, or at least they used to. Basically, Starbucks had an AI-powered inventory counting tool. Just fucking blow my brains out. So apparently it was cut back because it turns out that it wasn't really good at the basic principle of counting the fucking inventory. So according to a Starbucks memo, starting today, automated counting will be retired. Beverage components and milk will now be counted the same way you count inventory categories in your coffee house. So Nomad Go, they developed a system which relied on LiDARs and tablet cameras to generate automated tallies of syrups, milks, and similar beverage products. So, I've never worked at a Starbucks. Honestly, I really just dislike going to a fucking Starbucks. For the most part, I mean, their coffee and shit is usually like 5 times more expensive than what you can get at like some random coffee shop. At this point, if I want coffee, fuck Tim Hortons, fuck Starbucks. Probably McDonald's is the way to go, but this ain't a coffee review video, okay? The reality of it is that they hired people to literally count what was in the store and tally it up by hand before. One of the big issues that I find with a lot of these AI companies is these bros go to these CEOs, and the CEOs are just sort of sitting there like fucking kids. I wish I had some keys with me, but like basically the idea is that you sort of like dangle your keys in front of the CEO and tell them, look at what the AI can do. It can count, boss. And the CEO's like, wait a minute. You're telling me I can just fire somebody and replace this with Claude? And then Claude is going to look at my cameras and just count across? Dude, I'll save so much money. And then they find out the issue with a lot of this AI slop, much like we saw earlier with the Google search results, is that they hallucinate. They make mistakes. They're not sentient, intelligent beings. And because they're making mistakes, sometimes they miscount what they see. So at the end of the day, if you still need a human being to walk up and count every single thing, not only are you spending fucking money on the human being, but you're also spending money on the AI inference cost, which is going up day by day. Because the money in the big AI companies, it's starting to fucking dwindle. People want to see actual ROIs. So it's just look, I'm not saying that I'm like a total anti-AI dude. It's just that I feel like this world has kind of been fucked up a little bit because a bunch of like the big CEOs and like the head honchos who have no idea how this technology works, right? And I've met really intelligent people that I've had discussions with that are like, AI is going to change the future. And then like I actually walk them through the technologies and like they have this deer eye wide open. It's like, oh shit. Yeah, wait, you're right. Like once you explain to somebody that this isn't black magic, that this isn't sci-fi nonsense, they're like, wait a minute, yeah, hold on. This isn't as crazy as we thought. And there's actually good real use cases, I think, for artificial intelligence that work really well if you're somebody that knows how to develop things relatively well too. Basically, at the end of the day, what they kind of did was something that I saw like 6 months ago, where somebody took like small sets of hardware, a small model that was trained to do literally one thing in this case, which was literally look at all these oranges move and basically count them as time was going on. And are there oranges that are missed? Abso-fucking-lutely. There are things that probably don't get caught in this artificial intelligence. And they probably count these with an expectation that some are going to be missed. But for a place like Starbucks or any retail place, those numbers are important. And if you need a human being to verify them, bro, why even get the tool in the first place? It's like one of the worst experiences that I've kind of had is like driving up to like a drive-through and having an AI take my order, which I find that, I thought that in practice it might have been better than a human being, but in reality, I think I find myself more pissed off with the AI for fucking up whatever I'm asking it to do than an actual human being, because at least a human being will thankfully correct it. I don't get a chance to correct it with a bot. It just takes whatever input it thinks I said, hallucinates it, and fucks the fuck off to give me my broken order anyways. I think though at the end of the day where it's not kind of crashing and where it'll take some real time is obviously with things like Spotify, where if you haven't been following, obviously companies like Spotify have decided to work with Universal Music Group in order to like fucking add AI slop as long as the artist approves of it. A site that historically has been criticized for failing to properly pay out at least smaller artists. I'm not even talking about the big people like Taylor Swift or Drake, but like when you're looking at stuff like this, it just strikes me as how out of touch some of these companies are. Like, you guys know most of the world hates looking at AI slop in their social media feeds. I mean, people listen to music particularly because it comes from actual artists or it comes from an actual human being. Like, it's one of the most insanely intense creative fields out there, right? That's all that kind of matters. And they're wanting to like put in AI remixes and just have people like re-slop out a song. It's like, what are they going for other than the fact that an AI spits out a song at one point and then they can just keep using that to like make money while maybe screwing over the creator that initially allowed it to begin with, right? It's just, what are we doing? Like, some people, like, for a technology that is now starting to show the ugly side, there's still unfortunately holdouts like this that are still trying to push it in the most insane ways. I think one of the things that I kind of hate the most about this is like one website called Character AI, which I don't know how many of you guys have been following it, but these guys have been getting sued a lot for some really serious things, typically involving the deaths of actual people, whether it be their users or in some cases their actual relatives, right? So to give you an idea, right, the understanding of a company like Character AI is that they're basically a website that allows you to make your own sort of character, right? So you go over here, you make an account, you can talk to 10 million people. Apparently somebody made an AI bot version of me. Like, hello guys and gals, Mutahar here. So I guess this thing is basically me, but not really, because they say in very small words, it's an AI and not a real person. I wish I had like a cigarette pack in Canada to show you the exact opposite of this disclaimer. Like, if you ever buy a pack of cigarettes in Canada, it's the most disgusting shit in the world. Like, on the top of the cigarette pack will be the actual brand you had. And back when I did like smoke more, like obviously back when I was like not really like a smoker, like I wasn't like somebody that was addicted, but it definitely got to a point where I had to stop once I realized I had cravings. Anyways, not germane. Uh, Basically a Canadian pack of cigarettes is just basically it's just like pictures of like lung cancer, like like Surgeon General warning everywhere. I don't know how much I don't know how much it scares people off from like smoking, but you get the idea. It's almost yin and yang right here. So of course, obviously, I guess if I ask this AI Windows or Linux, and of course if I'd enter, whoa, you want me to make an account? Fuck that shit, dude. Get out of here. I'm never gonna know if that fat Indian guy prefers Windows or Linux. I mean, it is what it is. I'll never know. But you get the idea. In some cases, there are really dark examples, unfortunately, and this is what I think people are starting to look at a little bit more with scrutiny. But it's not like the people who are interacting with the stuff, who are falling into psychosis, are actually cognizant of the technology that they're using. You understand that? Like, this is the problem. This is why I like teaching you guys about this technology, because I feel like the best way to counteract the mystery surrounding it, the sort of mysticism, if you will, is to show people that at the end of the day, these are just models that have tons, billions of parameters, in some cases trillion plus parameters of various learned data that it's learned off of various other words. It's figured out the relationship between words to words, right? So for instance, if you take words like apple, food, and space, some words are going to have more relation to the other words, right? For instance, apple and food are going to be a lot more close together than the words apple and spaceship. Food and spaceship might be more close, right? Because of the learned data that it's generated. And ultimately, these AIs connect those like patterns and connect those phrases and spit it back out to the user. It's why you see a lot of similarity, and it's why you start to lose a lot of, I guess you could say, uniqueness the more you talk to these systems. But that's really where I'm kind of at the end, right? Like things are kind of falling apart, and I feel like the big ugly dragon is starting to show itself off. You know, for a lot of these search engines out there, people are getting tired of getting like dog shit thrown at them, and people are starting to like move off away from it. I mean, why even engage with the internet or a social media platform when you know that at least 50, 60% of it may actually just be fucking clanks, right? Like that's the issue surrounding it. And then, of course, when you're in the professional world, people who got fired a year ago, people who got laid the fuck off, are being called back because the big companies that hired these fucking AIs, they're like, shit, we're actually losing money. We're actually losing productivity. And ultimately, it's still a losing game if you've been laid off, because now that the market has shifted, people are going to be brought back for less than they originally kind of worked for, right? And then even beyond that, the actual situation, which I just talked about with character AI, where people are using these models and speaking to artificial intelligences and getting so emotionally invested. It's also like one of the most dark things to see, right? Like instead of real human relationships, a lot of young kids and even fucking people my age are like just talking to fucking bots all day instead of actually connecting with human beings. I'm just glad to see that financially speaking, this technology is kind of starting to fall apart. And at least if you're somebody that, you know, is like a realistic person in the world and not some deluded tech bro that thinks AI is the ultimate end all future, this is the kind of stuff that people need to see. I saw a video from like a couple people who were still doom pilling about this. And the reality is, it's like, yeah, I think doom pilling is kind of warranted, obviously, because we see it everywhere. But it's good to call out, like I am today, when this stuff is actually falling apart. The more people see that this stuff is not the answer to again the biggest question people were somehow asking years ago as to like how could human beings be more productive, how could we end up living in an age of abundance, when the ugly rear kicks in, when people see this for what it is, the world can begin to go back to the normality that I and millions of people actually still crave. So ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.